Iranian armed forces launched the 12th phase of Operation True Promise 3 on Wednesday evening with new generation missiles. In Palestine, occupation forces have killed over 130 people in the last 24 hours due to different massacres across Gaza. And tens of thousands of people marched through the main avenues of Buenos Aires, Argentina, against the sentence of former President Cristina Fernández de Kirchner. Hello and welcome to From the South. My name is Belén de los Santos. I'm from the teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. We now begin with the information with the situation in the Middle East. Iranian armed forces launched the 12th phase of Operation True Promise 3 on Wednesday evening with new generation missiles. Iran stated that tens of destructive drones of different types of the Islamic Republic of Iran army with anti-fortification warheads were launched towards the occupied territories and inflicted heavy blows on the designated targets. The latest wave of the retaliatory operation, which began Wednesday afternoon in response to the Israeli regime's brutal aggression against the Islamic Republic, came barely hours after leader of the Islamic Revolution Ayatollah Khamenei issued a message. The Ayatollah Khamenei said the Iranian nation would firmly stand against an opposed war and will never surrender to any form of imposition.
The Iranian nation will stand firm against this imposed war, just as it has stood firm against the imposed weapons. The Iranian nation will not surrender to anyone's imposition. I hope that intellectuals and speakers, especially those with the greatest connection to world public opinion, will express these concepts.
Likewise, the Supreme Leader of Iran, Ali Khamenei, stated that the incident occurred while certain negotiations were being set with the U.S. government.
This was a historical incident. It was a very revealing incident. The second issue is that this incident was a senseless and evil invasion by the Israeli regime. It happened while government officials were holding negotiations with the United States side. There was no principled problem in Iran that would indicate a military maneuver, as it was a sudden and drastic action. Of course, it is clear from the beginning that the United States regime is involved in this evil maneuver.
And in this sense, the Supreme Leader of Iran emphasized that the Iranian nation does not fear the threats imposed by the Zionist regime.
The Iranian nation has shown that in the face of threats from those who threaten us, there is no fear or trepidation, and the announcement of believers is a great thing. The Iranian nation appreciates this. The threat does not affect its behavior. For the Iranian nation, asking it to surrender is like not conducting yourself like a gentleman. These are people with conscience who know Iran, know the Iranian nation, know its history.
Precisely, the comments of the Iranian Supreme Leader come after U.S. President Donald Trump called for the unconditional surrender of Iran to the Israeli aggressions. Let's listen.
Two very simple words, very simple, unconditional surrender. That means I've had it. Okay, I've had it, I give up, no more. Then we go blow up all the, all the nuclear stuff that's all over the place there.
Media outlets aligned with international Zionism have once again tried to manipulate reality, claiming that Iranian helicopter gunships were attacked in the province of Kermanshah. However, the available images and evidence showed that the target of the alleged attack was a replica with no records of secondary explosions that confirmed the version spread by these sources. In this regard, the Iranian armed forces have reiterated that their strategic equipment is under maximum security. Likewise, the Islamic Republic assured that any attempt of aggression by the Zionist regime would be responded with firmness. And a U.S. report revealed that the Israeli regime is facing a shortage of defensive ammunition amid the Iranian response against the Jewish nation. According to the document, the Israeli missile arsenal is running out in the face of the dozen missiles that Iran is sending in retaliation to the Zionist aggression against Iran. The text details that this emergency would lead Tel Aviv to present difficulties in countering Iranian attacks in the long term. Likewise, the report detailed that the United States is aware of the shortages that Israel is facing, which is Washington's reason to work to strengthen the Zionist defense. And Russian President Vladimir Putin said on Wednesday that Moscow could help negotiate a settlement that could allow Tehran to pursue a peaceful atomic program while assuring the Israeli security concerns. Speaking to senior news leaders of international news agencies on the sidelines of the St. Petersburg International Economic Forum, Putin said it was a delicate issue, but that a solution could be found. The Russian president also informed that he had shared Moscow's proposal with Iran, Israel, and the United States, but reiterated that the final decision is up to the political leadership of all these countries, primarily Iran and Israel. The Russian leader emphasized that Russia has a trusting relationship with Iran and had built its first nuclear power plant in Bushehr. During his meeting with the senior news leaders of international news agencies in St. Petersburg, Russian President Vladimir Putin urged to find a peaceful solution to the Israel-Iran conflict and reiterated any agreement reached needs to address the interests of both nations.
And to find ways to reach an agreement for all parties to the conflict so that the interests of Iran could be ensured on the one hand when it comes to its peaceful nuclear activities, naturally peaceful nuclear activities. And I'm also talking about peaceful nuclear energy and the peaceful use of nuclear energy in other areas, as well as ensuring the interests of Israel in terms of unconditional security of the Jewish state.
And France proposes an initiative to establish a dialogue between Iran and Israel to end the conflict. The French President Emmanuel Macron urged European leaders to seek a negotiated and demanding solution to end the confrontation between Tehran and Tel Aviv. The French leader expressed his concern over the increase in civilian casualties due to the massive attacks on targets unrelated to the Iranian nuclear program. The French head of state instructed the foreign ministry to facilitate the evacuation of French citizens from both Iran and Israel. Meanwhile, more international repercussions. In a speech to legislators from his ruling party on Wednesday, the president of Turkey, Recep Tayyip Erdogan, further condemned Israel's aggressions in the region and reaffirmed Iran's legitimate right to self-defense.
All of our institutions and relevant colleagues are on alert regarding the possible effects of these attacks on our country. We have made and are making preparations against all kinds of negativity and all kinds of scenarios. It is a perfectly natural and legitimate legal right for Iran to defend itself against this state terrorism and banditry by Israel.
Now we have a short break coming up, but first, remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you will find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. We continue with more information. During a general audience on Wednesday at St. Peter's Square in the Vatican City, Pope Leo XIV alerted about the dangers of the current conflicts. The Supreme Pontiff pointed out that the Church is distressed by the wars being waged in Russia, Ukraine, and also the Middle East. The bishop emphasized that we must not get used to the war, so that the wars must be rejected, and rejected also the temptation of using powerful and sophisticated weapons. Likewise, Pope Leo XIV considered that the scientific weapons used in wars threaten to lead the world into a barbarism greater than that of past times. A massive demonstration by academics filled the streets of the Pakistani capital, Islamabad, condemning Israeli aggression against Palestine and also Iran. Participants expressed their solidarity by carrying banners rejecting Israeli crimes, emphasizing that the Palestinian cause is a religious and humanitarian priority. In this regard, Pakistani social leaders highlighted that the struggle will continue until the liberation of the region is achieved. Pakistani ulemas also called for Islamic unity in the face of the Western war on Islam, criticizing the United Nations' inability to protect the Palestinians. And the Director General of the International Atomic Energy Agency, Rafael Grossi, ensured that there is no evidence of a systematic effort by Iran to develop nuclear weapons.
I mean, there is this competition about who is wrong or right about the time that would be needed. Certainly, it was not for tomorrow, maybe not a matter of years. I would there be perhaps more serious about this, and I don't think it was a matter of years. But this is speculation. Why? I go again to the beginning of my comment. These things, we don't know, because if there was some activity which was clandestine or hidden or away from our inspectors, we couldn't know. What we informed and what we reported was that we did not have, as in coincidence with some of the sources you mentioned there, that we did not have any proof of a systematic effort to move to a nuclear weapon.
And in this context, unilaterally, U.S. President Donald Trump engaged the country in the conflict between Israel and Iran. Without consulting Congress, he asserted that the nation was participating in Israel's air defense system. However, more than 60% of U.S. citizens reject this statement. According to the survey conducted by YouGov, 60% of those interviewed, including Republicans, do not share the opinions of the head of state regarding intervention in the war, the threats against the supreme leader of the Islamic Revolution, or the ultimatum on the nuclear process. 65% of Democrats surveyed strongly oppose it, 53% of Republicans also oppose it, and 61% of the independent population agrees with this opinion. Several legislators, including Republicans, also do not want to see the nation involved in the confrontations between Tel Aviv and Tehran. And in Palestine, occupation forces have killed over 130 people in the last 24 hours in what is being described as Israeli and U.S. hunger traps. Byproduct of famine, thousands of Palestinians continue to flock to the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation's food distribution centers. It is there where Israeli military shoot civilians under the excuse of safeguarding food. To date, hundreds have been killed and even more injured at these U.S.-backed distribution centers. UN humanitarian coordinator Jonathan Whittle assured that Nasser Hospital is overcrowded due to the high number of wounded being admitted. And during the resumption Of the 10th emergency session of the United Nations on Palestine, Nicaragua reaffirmed its condemnation of Israel's genocide against the Palestinian people. Jaime Remida, Nicaragua's representative, called for an immediate and permanent ceasefire as well as access to humanitarian aid. He stressed that there will be no peace in the Middle East as long as the occupation of Palestinian territories and the theft of their land are systematic. Remida vindicated the Palestinian people's resistance as it represents the struggle of peoples worldwide. He reaffirmed that Nicaragua will continue to defend justice, peace, and respect for international law. Now we have a second short break coming up, but before we invite you to visit our Facebook page at teleSUR English. There you'll be able to watch our top stories, live coverages, and much more. Follow our page and activate notifications to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. Final short break, don't go away. Welcome back to From the South. We continue with more information. Tens of thousands of people marched through the streets of Buenos Aires, Argentina, against the sentence of former President Cristina Fernández de Kirchner. On Wednesday, political, trade union, and social organizations gathered to protest against the 6-year prison sentence against Cristina Fernández. The demonstrators rallied in the Mayo Square with banners and slogans to express their support to the leader of the Justicialist Party. Meanwhile, another group of citizens also gathered in front of the residence of Cristina Fernández in Buenos Aires to show their support. Precisely in this context, the former Argentinian President Cristina Fernández addressed the crowds gathered in Mayo Square and highlighted her desire and her will to have again a country with fair incomes for all the working class.
My will to have again a country where the boys and girls have 4 meals a day, books and computers in their schools. Workers that can make ends meet, and also save to buy a little house, a little piece of land, something that is theirs, obtained with their effort, and as a result of their work. In line with Peronism, where the pensioners had remedies. That country was not a utopia. We lived it for 2.5 years, and we left it without any debt. The same as the families.
In this context, Fernandez also affirmed that the neoliberal model implemented by Milei's government is unsustainable.
How do you sustain an economic model where people have to pay their daily food with their cards, and later, they cannot pay their card debts? How can a country survive when it is much cheaper to buy food and clothes abroad than in the country? And while this is happening, the Minister of Economy, the infamous Caputo, rents dollars to pretend he has reserves. Is there really anyone who can seriously and sensibly think that this is sustainable? My God, that cannot be worse than that.
And we now move on to other topics. Absenteeism has been reportedly on the rise in U.S. schools due to the government's policy against migrants. According to a study carried out by Stanford University, both regular and undocumented students have seen their courses affected because their families keep them away from schools for fear of being sent to their countries of origin. The study pointed out that daily absences increased by 22% at time the raids began. Since January, the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement has conducted raids in so-called sanctuary cities such as Chicago. Similarly, President Donald Trump has also authorized ICE members to act in schools and churches, as well as to deport migrants with irregular status for alleged links to criminal gangs, often without showing any evidence. And during her daily press conference, Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum informed on Wednesday about the upcoming meeting of her Minister of Economy and the Secretary of Commerce of the United States.
On Friday, Marcelo Ebrard will meet again with the U.S. Secretary of Commerce to move on with the trade issues we have pending. Regarding the security and immigration issues, in which we want to include the case of the Mexican families in the U.S., we will be discussing that with the State Department.
On the other hand, Sheinbaum informed that Mexico will continue working with Canada to strengthen their bilateral relations.
We held a very important meeting with the Prime Minister of Canada. We agreed, of course, to continue working together on the trade deal, but also to strengthen even more the relations between Canada and Mexico, especially in education, culture, and the investments of Canadian companies in Mexico. It was a very good meeting.
And like this, we have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. Also join us on social media. We are on Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok as well. For teleSUR English, my name is Belén de los Santos. Thank you for watching.